Buckle up tight, boys. It's time for a big one. And I hope it's a big one that allows other people to enter into this lovely discussion so they can share their thoughts, and then you can absolutely slap them with the absolute facts I'm about to be spitting. So, funnily enough, the shonen genre, despite being probably the most beloved genre in all of anime, targeting a primarily teen audience, but just being wonderful in its exploration of deeper themes than most Western stories that target the same audience, it is also largely some of the most criticized and disregarded areas of anime to the anime world at large. One of the things I wanted to do when I started talking about anime in general on my channel was try and restore faith of humanity into the shonen genre, talking about why it's actually so amazing. And ever since I kind of started that trend, a lot more people jumped on board. There were always chapter reviews, and that was long before me, but actually making analyses on different characters or arcs or themes in shonen didn't really exist until I showed up on the YouTube anime scene. And I'm not trying to stroke my own ego or anything. Okay, maybe it's trying to stroke my own ego a little bit. But I feel like as far as the YouTube sphere goes, ever since the beginning of my YouTube journey until now, there was a massive, colossal improvement in the eyes of the public how to regard shonen anime. I definitely don't get all the credit, but it's something you love to see. Now, shonen anime are often chopped up into many different genres and many different subtypes, and I'm here today to talk about modern shonens. Now, how do you define a modern shonen? Well, that would be an anime that, at least for my age range, is something that I would only watch after already being into anime. It's not one of those shonens that got me into anime. So I guess I'd say shonens that came out past 2010. Looking back at my nostalgic years that eventually got me to love anime so much, I could think back to shonen anime like Naruto, Bleach, Yu-Gi-Oh! And I could look back at it with nostalgia and fondness, and it's because of these things that makes us want to dig deeper and see the beauty that lies beneath. As far as modern shonen goes, though, a lot of this disturbing mindset of shonen anime being inferior still exists. And that is for many different reasons than it ever did before. I think and speculate that the reason why shonen anime used to get hate was because shonen was generally a gateway type anime. Once you got into anime and started watching deeper shows with intricate philosophy like K-On!, then how can you even go back and look at shonen? Disgusting. But in the modern era, so much of anime is becoming mainstream, it doesn't feel like the niche that it used to. A lot of people that liked anime and liked the idea of being in this niche fan base are finding themselves to have gone from niche viewers to normies. My Hero Academia has become a normie anime. Not that that's bad, not that that's good, but some people feel like that specialness of anime has been taken away. And this video is to dunk on everyone. Don't think that I'm just here harping on the shonen haters. I'm gonna be harping on the shonen lovers. I'm literally harping on everyone. Everyone gets crap on this channel. That's what I like to call gender equality. Okay, that didn't really fit so much. We combat racism here. Everyone gets crap equally. Hell yeah, you'll love to see it. So I feel like this video was a long time coming. It's something I wanted to do for a while and finally actually got the script done. So I think we could all have a lot of fun on this adventure. I'm gonna spit some facts, ruin some days, and tell you my conclusion. Of course, anything I say is purely based on my personal biases, which is, absolute truth and justice. So if you disagree with my personal bias, you are on the losing side of history. But that said, you have every right to disagree if you would like. Hell yeah, I am all for disagreeing with me if you can back up your points, and if you don't do it like a total nutcase, I am all for it. This video is designed to tear some new buttholes in some anime, and also to patch up some buttholes that didn't deserve to exist at all. Yes, this was a strange metaphor to go with, but I've committed, and there's no going back. Today is a glorious day. Today will change the landscape on how modern shonen is regarded. Today is the ultimate analysis retrospective thingy on modern shonen. Today I'm gonna talk about the kings of modern shonen. When I get to the point where I talk about what would become a king or what wouldn't become a king, I do have one specific anime in mind, as in my personal personal opinion, the absolute king of modern shonen. It reigns supreme over all of its contemporaries, and it is a masterpiece and something that so many people are not willing to give a chance. But first, I'm gonna talk about other modern shonen, what they do right, what they do wrong, what they bring to the table, and why I still consider them a king of the modern era in their very own way. I will be talking about 15 anime in this video, obviously with the final of those 15 being, in my personal opinion, the king, the wielder of the crown and scepter. But I don't think any of these other anime that I'm mentioning should be glossed over. I think that they're all special in their own way, and I think they also deserve to partake in the glory of what modern shonen is, because at the end of the day, it is a beautiful thing. So the first two that I wanted to mention, two pawns of modern shonen, if you will, Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia. These two, I think, are very important to mention, and by me referring to them as pawns, I think you know where I'm going with this metaphor. They are the advanced troops. They are extremely pivotal when it comes to the overall chess game, but at the end of the day, they are not the pillars that modern shonen as a whole stands on. They set the tone for the entire chessboard and tell you what kind of game you're going to play, even though in actuality, they will probably play a somewhat smaller role than their contemporaries. Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia broke into the mainstream like no anime that's come before it, as far as Western culture goes. Yes, people grew up with Naruto, Yu-Gi-Oh, and other shonen of that era, but it took them a while to become ingrained in the culture. There are more kids in this generation that know about My Hero Academia than there were in my times that knew about Naruto. I'm not saying that in a good way or a bad way. I think that it's actually fantastic. Okay, I am saying it in a good way. Would you look at that? Bringing more people to appreciate anime, I think, is a great, fantastic thing. Anime, like any other medium, is an art form, and it's an art form that can only be appreciated if given a chance. It takes anime like Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia to really bring people into the community. They're both great stories, they're great shows. They do so many things right that Western TV does not, which is why it's a great way to involve more people in the overall anime fandom. I think they definitely deserve a place in this video as being important pieces that set the tone for the rest of the game. My Hero Academia has this amazing staying power. With a season coming out every year or so, the hype, while subsiding when it's not around, will come back in full force when it comes back. So even though I'm the first person to dunk on My Hero when I think it screws up, and I think it screwed up because Deku is my least favorite mainstream shonen protagonist of all time. But I'm not reopening that wound, even though I just did, because despite that fact, there is so much amazing stuff there that can only be experienced through anime. It's themes of good and evil, it's themes of what makes a hero and what is justice and what the purpose of being a pillar of justice is. Yet things like this do not exist in Western storytelling for the most part, with characters with tragic backstories and convictions that bring them to their decisions. My Hero Academia is a fantastic story in its own right, even though I think Deku is a heaping pile of garbage and the worst mainstream shonen protagonist of all time. And while it had this crazy staying power, Demon Slayer had a very, very different impact. Demon Slayer was a one-time atom bomb. It dropped on the community so hard, its impact is still giving our children genetic defects due to nuclear poisoning. Okay, I don't know why I keep going along with these metaphors. They're not funny. They're just sad. Okay, they're funny. Screw it. I'm keeping them. I like them. Stop making fun of my metaphors. The more you keep making fun of my metaphors, the weirder they're gonna get, okay? That's straight up revenge against you. You know who you are. Demon Slayer hitting hard with everyone talking about it, whether they're an anime fan or a normie alike. Ninja talking about it, and people getting upset about it. Yes, isn't it great that there were so many controversies in regard to Demon Slayer? Oh, Tanjiro's earrings are in fact a symbol of Nazi propaganda. You know that you made it big when Twitter starts calling you out and hating on you. That's what I think every time I see a tweet that is calling me out and hating on me, and I see a lot of them. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your support. Hell yes. But that's why I think My Hero Academia and Demon Slayer were definitely worthy of mentions in this video, and I would like to move on to the next king, as it were, and that is Black Clover. Black Clover didn't break into the mainstream like Demon Slayer and My Hero did, but I think it contributed in a different way. The Elf War arc of Black Clover, in my personal, humble opinion, is the peak arc of modern shonen. When it comes to storytelling in a lot of these shonen, for the most part, they're very long, overarching stories that will will eventually reach some crazy conclusion. Some big climax eventually that will bring all the puzzle pieces together, bring all the characters together, give us some amazing moments, amazing development, and this air of finality that just feels so great on a thematic level and on a character level, and Black Clover delivered. As far as the modern era goes, if you look at every single modern shonen, none compare to the Elf War arc in Black Clover in any of these regards that I just mentioned. For these reasons alone, I think it's incredibly important to at least have Black Clover as another piece of the chessboard when talking about the kings of the modern era. Another anime that I'd like to mention similarly is Seven Deadly Sins, which has some of the best character writing I've ever seen. It gets so much crap because, let's be honest, the plot has more holes than JoJo characters after they get impaled, and that's a lot of holes. But despite all of that, the characters are written in such real, genuine ways, with such amazing psychologies, fantastic development. We see the trauma that they have and how they have to overcome it. And it's a beautiful character story and character piece, even though plot-wise, it's not necessarily the first and foremost Lord of the Rings tier story. So I think it still definitely deserves and warrants a mention. And the anime that's about to come up, well, that needs no introduction. Assassination Classroom changed the shonen game, in my personal opinion. No shonen anime I've ever seen has an ending as emotional and heartrending as Assassination Classroom. It's also absolutely one of the kings of the modern era in a way that it tugs at your heartstrings like shonen anime and anime alike never really has. And speaking of an amazing emotional ending, I think it's important to talk about amazing emotional beginnings and The Promised Neverland, which I think has the strongest opening arc of any shonen anime ever written. It's a story that gets you immediately invested in the plot after a single episode. It's a thriller that has no breaks. And even though at parts of the story in the manga it gets lackluster and kind of ass-pully, it doesn't detract from the fact that you have this shonen thriller that drops you right into the thick of depravity in a single episode. It's a major player in the modern shonen game, and it will be one that will not be forgotten. Another brief one I wanted to mention before moving on was Kuroko no Basket, because I think, as far as shonen anime go, a lot of people are into it for the fantasy setting. You got ninjas blowing fireballs and pirates turning into rubber. You don't want to watch basketball, you could just watch basketball in real life. Sports shonen is an immediate turnoff to so many people, and I think Kuroko no Basket is an amazing way to get over that bridge and see, bruh, I know it's basketball and it's a little bit unrealistic, but dude, the emotional climaxes are Naruto tier. It gives you an entire different pathway open into how you experience anime. I think Kuroko no Basket is probably the best gateway sports anime, even though it is by no means my favorite. I think it's still important to mention because at the end of the day, this video is more about appreciating the overarching setting of the modern shonen landscape and not about picking at individual shows, except for Deku from My Hero Academia, because I hope he dies in a fire and he's absolute trash. Sorry, just had to put that in there. Sports shonen in general are kind of considered not the generic formula. And speaking of not the generic formula, there are two anime I think that do that very, very well, those being Dr. Stone and Food Wars. Two shonen anime that are the furthest thing from shonen that you would think of if your entire frame of reference was only Naruto and One Piece. Food Wars is just about cooking, and Dr. Stone is about some crazy future where everything reverted back to the Stone Age and you have to build science up from scratch. Neither of them seem like the typical shonen formula, but they still tackle all the shonen points when it comes to development, when it comes to growth, when it comes to overcoming adversity, and when it comes to clashing of much more complex themes than the story promotes. Food Wars is about people in a school cooking food. There's fan service everywhere. It's less realistic than my haters that think a single hate tweet is gonna completely destroy my empire. But yet, despite that, you have this fantastic, thematic, ideological argument in the third season with Azami trying to take over the school. He believes every chef that's not in the top 10 chefs should completely dispel and disregard their originality and just follow the conga line. They must do as commanded. Their originality is rendered null and void in comparison to the absolute skill of these top 10 chefs. The monarchy that this man wanted to instill on the world, yes, in regards to cooking, is just as powerful as the crazy ideological arguments of authoritarian leaders. Akainu from One Piece is not as good of an antagonist as Azami from Food Wars. You know Akainu? The guy that says absolute justice, everyone must obey and comply without putting a toe out of line? Yeah, I don't think he's as good of an antagonist as this dude that wants people to follow orders while cooking. Because in the setting of cooking food, he is unparalleled. And Soma's brazen retaliation against Azami, saying no, every chef has their specialties. Every chef has their original ideas, and everyone has to follow their dreams and make something of themselves, not just become subservient. He believes in freedom. Do you realize that the extremely praised dynamic in One Piece, Luffy versus Akainu, is essentially the same as a one-off arc, Soma versus Azami, in Food Wars? That's just one example. There are so many different ideologies that clash in this stupid anime about food. Not to mention Dr. Stone, where you literally introduce a character in episode 2 that has a radically opposed ideology to the protagonist, and also not in the conventional way. Shaping the landscape of modern shonen, Dr. Stone and Food Wars are absolutely necessary to mention. Despite being unabashful in their oddities, they are fantastic in their own right. Now, I have 5 left that I want to quickly mention before bringing up the absolute king of the modern era, and again, I have them all here for different reasons. First, I wanted to mention Attack on Titan, an anime that genuinely took the world by storm. Aside from being the insane hype monster in 2013 and then dying down for half a decade until it came back with season 2, a lot of people began to think it was overhyped, but then realized that season 1, that season that freaking took over completely, yeah, that's probably the worst season in Attack on Titan. A story that continuously got better and better with every single arc until the manga today, which is literally a classic in the making. The geopolitics in Game of Thrones and other very critically acclaimed stories don't match Attack on Titan in many regards in just how it paints what humanity truly is and what evil truly is. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning Attack on Titan here and not necessarily giving it a shot at being the king of the modern era is because I never really considered it a shonen. It's kind of on the borderline. Just like Death Note was for classic shonen, I think Attack on Titan is for modern ones. Death Note was technically in Shonen Jump, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's a shonen anime, and same with Attack on Titan. It's kind of due to that technicality that I would never be able to christen it as the king of modern shonen. 2 more that I wanted to mention were JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Hunter x Hunter. 2 more fantastic stories. 2 of my 4 favorite shonen of all time. But being that they're remakes and they're adaptations of much older source material, I couldn't, with a full conscience, say that either of them deserve this slot, being that they came from an era where shonen was, or at this point is, retroactively respected. It came from that One Piece era and even earlier. So with that in mind, I can't prove a point and I can't argue about the modern landscape of shonen based on these 2 stories that are fantastic but are written over 2 decades ago. And that's when I get to finally bring up the king of modern shonen. Boruto! That's right, you heard it here first, boys. Boruto made a comeback. It's the best anime of all time. Hell yes. Subscribe, because at 2 million subscribers, we're summoning Satan. No weak milestones here. Summoning Satan. Go big or go home. Subscribe. Boruto is the legendary anime that saved us. We are saved thanks to Boruto. Hail Boruto. You think that Naruto was good? You ain't seen nothing yet. Boruto's fantastic. Have you seen Jigen? This man may not have any ideology, but he's horny, bro. He's a horny Boruto villain. Hail Boruto. Nux and Boruto, 100 years. 100 years, Nux and Boruto. Okay, I had enough of that. I was gonna have an aneurysm if I'd have kept going. I just had to mention Boruto as the absolute worst of modern shonen. I had to do it. I'm sorry. Boruto's genuinely not bad, at least in the manga at this point, but I didn't think it would be complete without mentioning, you know, Boruto, which is a reminder to us all that once One Piece ends and then 2 Piece starts, following Monkey D. Schluffy, we'll be in for a legendary adventure. Now, there are 2 more anime I want to mention. The runner-up to the king and the king himself. Funnily enough, I personally prefer the runner-up to the king in this very selection, and I will explain to you why the one that I personally prefer, I don't think can be inaugurated as the king. So, my runner-up for the king of modern shonen is Maggie, the Labyrinth of Magic. I think that this is a criminally underrated anime, but due to the fact that after 2 seasons, the anime just kind of fell off the face of the planet and no one knows when or if it's coming back, I just think that it can't possibly be as impactful as the #1 spot. That, and it does not follow the more shonen-esque formula of watching a main character's growth in accomplishing his dreams, being that it's an entirely different setting. It's much more political than your average shonen, and also focused much more on themes, destiny, and history than focused on the future, adventure, and the power of friendship. friendship, as ironic as it sounds. So while I prefer Maggie to the anime I'm about to mention, I do think that this following anime is the undeniable king of modern shonen. It is one of the reasons why I decided to make this video altogether, because perhaps my audience did not give this anime the chance that it deserved. And this anime is Haikyuu. I know this isn't the kind of video I usually make at this point, but as far as the current landscape goes, with people flinging insults all around, whether you don't like shonen or you like some shonen but didn't give other shonen a chance and all of this poop, I'll say it how it is. Haikyuu is the pinnacle of modern shonen. It is the absolute, undeniable king. Now, before you come up with other things that should be here, I probably thought of them. I spent a lot of hours just looking at different anime, deciding whether I should include them or not, and I decided against it. I know that people are already furiously typing, what about One Punch Man? What about Mob Psycho? What about Vinland Saga? None of them are shonen. I could discuss why on another day, but as far as I'm concerned, Haikyuu is the absolute king, and I will tell you exactly why. It embodies every aspect of what a shonen anime needs to be. It has the dream of the protagonist, the impossible mountains before him that he'll have to eventually overcome, the people that tell him he can't do it and him still striving to be able to and accomplish his dreams. He has his rivalries. There are other characters introduced, each with their own formidable ideology, formidable philosophy, and fantastic psychology. It does wonders in regards to how it builds the plot, it builds the characters, it builds the motivations, and it builds the overall setting. Yes, it's people in high school playing volleyball, but yes, it is the absolute pinnacle of modern shonen as it stands today. Every single time our main characters get into a volleyball match, we're always rooting for them. But then as the match progresses, we start to understand the ideologies of the antagonists. We start to see their backstories. We start to see why they need to win so desperately. We start to want them to win, and then they lose. Do you understand how tragic it is? How literally every team in the series you root for will lose because you are rooting for both sides every single time. My favorite character in the series is easily Oikawa. He's an antagonist for a large part of Haikyuu. He is known as the king of the court. Every single time he sets up a spike, he does it with 100% accuracy. He is a beast, a legend, and he will talk down and be condescending to everyone, especially Kageyama, the setter of the protagonist's team. Now, originally, we think he's just being an arrogant prick, so we hate him. But after understanding him a little bit better, we start to see something so much deeper inside him and something that we could relate to every single one of us. We start to see that he himself is cursed. He is cursed that he can never surpass 100%. Kageyama, playing alongside Hinata, the protagonist, can exert 120% of his max power. He is talented. He has a talent that cannot be reached by Oikawa, even though Oikawa, by all general metrics, is the perfect setter. Despite having everything going for him, he reached his ceiling and he sees it in front of his face. He sees a line that he cannot cross, and that is absolute torture for him. Despite being the best setter in the entire prefecture, just by the fact that he sees he can never pass 100%, he is suffering, and he will do everything in his power to try and take Kageyama, someone who can surpass him on rare occasions, down a notch. He is such a human character. We see his suffering. We understand his psychology. He's someone that has everything going for him, but we can still have our hearts torn out for him, where we can cry and weep and hope that he can find a happiness that he inevitably won't as an antagonist. And I just say that about him because he's my personal favorite character, and I don't want this to be a massive video on Haikyuu, which it very well could be. Of course, if you want, definitely let me know in the comments and leave a like on this video. I am considering doing like a no one understands Haikyuu video, so let me know if you want that. But in the meantime, every single character is built up in this same way. The same way that we could start to understand them on such an intimate level, we begin to feel for them. We can predict who will do what. We could see how far their dreams can go, and we can cry alongside them when their dreams occasionally fail and cease to be. My second favorite character in Haikyuu is Tsukishima. And while I don't want to get into the backstories and developments of every character, because I highly urge you to watch them yourself, is you see this man who looks at volleyball with a disinterest, and you start to see why he has this disinterest. When he exerts himself past his max for his team and screams out a bellow of victory when he blocks a nigh unblockable shot, that scream hits harder than any guttural bellow from your most intense action-packed anime, no matter what it is. I am someone that never really cared for volleyball. I'm someone that's never started to care for volleyball even after watching Haikyuu, but I'm someone that can relate to them on their journey up. The beauty of shonen is how it's all a metaphor for our everyday life. Whether they're ninjas shooting fireballs, they're pirates going on an 1,000-chapter quest, or they're kids fondling some balls. Okay, that sounded really weird, but I'm gonna roll with it. It can all be applied to our lives. We all have dreams. We all have aspirations. We are all people. We all rise to the occasion, on occasion, and we all falter and fail and fall. What matters isn't that we fall, but what matters is how we pick ourselves back up. What matters is how we ally ourselves with the people we care about, and how the people we care about ally themselves with us. Haikyuu is the anime that hits every single tone when it comes to the climactic antagonists and when it comes to the development of the protagonists. I've always said that this channel of mine is a channel where I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. I'm going to talk about the things I am passionate about, no matter what they seem to be, and no matter how much crap I get. But in the end of the day, no characters in modern shonen feel as human as Haikyuu's cast. No ideals feel as approachable as Haikyuu's cast. No modern shonen matches Haikyuu with every single beat and every breath every character takes. This is why Haikyuu, an anime about high school kids playing volleyball, is the king of modern shonen. It's a story about someone who was crippled from birth. Not crippled in any natural deficiency, but he was short, and as a short person, playing volleyball kind of seemed like an impossibility, despite that being his dream. But even if the odds are against you, even if the world tells you you can't, even if it makes no sense logically to continue trying, sometimes you just have to learn to sprout wings and fly. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was not the absolute norm, but it was something that I think needed to be said, because the modern landscape of shonen is tragically misunderstood by the masses. I don't think anime that deserve respect get it. I think anime that don't deserve respect do get it. I think that people hate on things just for being popular, when being popular is such an important facet to the community, and I think people should watch Haikyuu, and some people don't, and those people are dumb, blind, and I would use other terms right now, but they would probably get me canceled on Twitter. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. It took a while to make, and it was a lot of fun to put together, and I do intend to either make a video on Haikyuu as a standalone, or make a video on classic shonen. You know, really diving deep, the king of classic shonen, or whatever the hell else kind of thing you want to see. Let me know down below. Please subscribe, because at 2 million subscribers, we will be summoning Satan, which is freaking hype, if I do say so myself. Thank you for all your time. Have yourselves the most wonderful evening. Share this video around, and remember to stay weird, fam.